Hi, this is Stephanie Gordon at Gordon Property Management. Today we're talking about San Francisco's Rent Control Ordinance 101, how the rent control laws in San Francisco impact landlords and tenants. Essentially, it changes the whole dynamics of the landlord-tenant relationship for both landlords and tenants. Yes, there's always been evil landlords that do bad things, and so legislators got together and created all these rules and regulations to protect tenants from bad landlords. But no one ever created any laws to protect landlords from bad tenants, and believe me, there are enough of them out there. So unfortunately, in San Francisco, the landlord-tenant relationship has kind of become a war zone, which is really unfortunate because everywhere else, landlords value their tenants. Long-term tenants are wonderful. That's what you want. Having a turnover, having a vacancy, that's the most expensive part of owning rental property. But in San Francisco, after you've had a tenant there for 3 or 4 years, you want them to move out because then you can bring your rental unit up to market. So it really changes the whole dynamics about how landlords and tenants interact with each other. And I think it really is unfortunate. And a small handful of really unpleasant tenants sets the tone for how landlords react to the majority of tenants. Whereas the majority of tenants are great people, they take care of their units, they're pleasant to deal with, they're cooperative, and you've got a handful that, you know, we all kind of focus on the lowest common denominator. And the other thing that happens is that landlords really don't have an incentive to fix up their buildings, to keep their buildings modern or current or the units up to date. Tenants will call and they want this or they want that, they want some, a more energy efficient refrigerator. Well, the landlord has no incentive to provide that for a tenant. It's paying a fraction of fair market value for their unit. You also get situations where a tenant in a building who's disturbing other tenants, there really isn't a whole lot that we can do about that. If it's really blatant, you might be able to evict a tenant on a nuisance, but if they're, coming home and they're playing their music a little too loud every night or having a few too many parties here or there and they're really disturbing all their neighbors, there really isn't a whole lot that a landlord can do about. So rent control really negatively affects not just landlords but also tenants. I think the other thing that's important to know in San Francisco with rent control is watch out for roommate changes, because under San Francisco's rent ordinance, when you have a vacant unit, you can raise that unit to market. But as long as you've got tenants in there, they're rent controlled. And the way the law works is the original tenants that signed the lease are your rent controlled tenants. And once one of the roommates moves out and a new roommate moves in, either that new roommate becomes rent control or they don't. And it's your actions as a landlord that will determine that. So if you accept a rent check from that new roommate, they're a rent control tenant. If you take an email from that tenant, they're a rent control tenant. If you take a work request from that tenant, they're a work control tenant. So you want to not acknowledge that new roommate. They're an unauthorized subtenant, and you do not want to recognize them, because then as the original tenants who signed the lease move out and that new roommate is still there, once the original tenants are gone, you've got a unit that you can now bring to market. You can choose to keep those roommates there, but you can definitely raise the rent. So that is Rent Control San Francisco 101. I'm Stephanie Gordon at Gordon Property Management. Thank you.